Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Kate Hamilton Health Podcast. So in today's episode, I chat with Alison from Mind-Align Therapy. Alison is a clinical hypnotherapist and emotional eating specialist and is the founder of Mind-Align Therapy. With a deep understanding of the mind-body connection, she supports busy perimenopausal women in breaking free from the binge-regret cycle and building a calm, confident relationship with food without ever having to resort to restrictive diets. Blending subconscious programming with compassionate coaching and practical tools, Alison helps her clients reconnect with their bodies, stabilize their energy, and begin truly prioritizing themselves during one of the most transformative stages of life. Her approach is rooted in empowerment and self-trust, guiding women to stop outsourcing their worth and instead feel at home in their own skin. We have the most amazing conversation about all things that I enjoy to talk about. We talk about that rewiring, that binge regret loop. We talk about perimenopause and cravings. We talk about overeating. We talk about learning to eat mindfully and trust your body. We talk about hypnotherapy, the subconscious mind, beliefs, and how a lot of your beliefs aren't even your own. And we talk about hunger and the difference between physical hunger and emotional hunger. And we talk about cortisol and hormones, the power of journaling and reflecting, and what we really need to put in place in our lifestyles to feel empowered. So I hope you enjoy this episode just as much as I enjoyed recording it. So without further ado, here is today's episode. Alison, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation. We had a brief little chat off air about everything that you do and my interest in this area, which I think we'll spend a little bit of time talking about. But I'm going to just let you introduce yourself, if that's okay, in your own words, who you are, what you do, and kind of what has brought you to this place.
Great. Yeah. No, so as I said, my name's Alison and my business is Mind-Align Therapy. So I'm a hypnotherapist and also a training counsellor. So I've got about 9 months left on my counselling training at the moment as well. So I work with mainly midlife women who are struggling with stress, overwhelm, hormones changing, perimenopausal, maybe they're menopausal now. And something that I realised was sort of key for so many women was emotional eating, and how, it's well recognised now that women in midlife struggle with weight gain, even if they haven't done in the past. But as soon as those hormones start playing up, that midriff starts expanding and it's so much harder to lose weight. Looking just a little bit closer at what maybe is causing that, what is causing the weight gain, as well as those hormones. And what came out really was sort of like that emotional eating, that sort of like we're eating to feed our emotions. We're using it as a way of comforting ourselves, of soothing emotions that maybe we don't want to face. After qualifying, I sort of over time niched down into that area of hypnotherapy, really. I also include coaching and sort of lots of mindset tools and things along the way in my plans. It's a big change from where I started out. I actually trained as a nurse back in the early 90s, and then went from there when my children were young into working in an infant school, which I did for many years. And then about 6 years ago, I had a problem with my back. I had to have surgery on my back and didn't quite go to plan, didn't go as well as I thought it would. Sort of long story short, I've had sort of numerous operations since then because it's left me with a lot of long-term neuropathic pain and nerve damage. So it was kind of, I could retrain. I could do what I've always wanted to do. I could do what really interests me, what I've got a passion for. So that's what I did. I kind of decided the kids have grown up and I've got some time. So I retrained and focused my energies on something that I enjoy, but also has touched me as well. I've been through these symptoms. I've been through that perimenopausal stage. I just really enjoy sort of giving back and supporting other women now.
That's amazing. And so your whole journey has been very much helping people though, isn't it? Like that's clearly something that's really important to you.
And it was when I kind of reached the stage where, unfortunately, I was off sick a long time from school and it wasn't something that was going to work for me anymore. And it's, what do I do? What do I actually want to do? And when I looked back at all the jobs I'd had in the past, that key element was actually helping other people in different formats, but it was always sort of helping other people. Yeah, that was definitely the route I wanted to take and stick with. And it was kind of my husband that gave me that nudge to say, go on, you've always wanted to do this. And originally it was counselling. That's what my interest was. And then in investigating that, I came across hypnotherapy. I started looking a little bit more into that and thought, oh, this looks interesting. And before I knew it, I was doing my training and enjoying every minute of it.
I love that, because I think as well, we'll talk a little bit about, for anyone listening wondering what hypnotherapy is, with hypnotherapy compared to like with counseling, a lot of it is really kind of treating the problems, isn't it? And kind of diving deep into the problem side of things. I know, correct me if I'm wrong. Whereas I just feel with hypnotherapy, it's giving the power back. For anyone who doesn't know, is there a difference between clinical hypnotherapy and cognitive hypnotherapy?
So they're both forms of clinical hypnotherapy. They're both hypnotherapy. So often when you say hypnotherapy to people, they imagine stage entertainment. Yeah. So they imagine that, I'm going to get someone up on stage, or I'm going to make you do something you're not comfortable with. We've all seen them, particularly in the 90s, there was a big sort of thing. You saw a lot of stage hypnotists who are entertaining, but a clinical hypnotherapist is not going to make you pretend you're a chicken or do something silly. And I think it's also important to know that a hypnotherapist is not going to make you do anything you don't want to do. Yeah. So we all have our own personal values. And if somebody said something to your subconscious that went against those personal values, you just wouldn't do it.
Do you mind just explaining a little bit about what hypnotherapy effectively is and does? Like what is the practice of hypnotherapy for anyone who doesn't know?
So hypnotherapy is, we are working with your subconscious mind. Okay, so if you think we've got our conscious minds that we're using all the time, every day, we're using it to talk to each other now. And then we have our subconscious mind. It's a little bit like if you imagine an iceberg. Yeah, so you've got that top layer that we can all see, but most of the iceberg's under the ocean. And that's our subconscious mind. Most of it's beneath the surface. And it's full of our habits and beliefs that we've learned as we've gone through life. Yeah, a lot of it stemming from childhood, what we learned in those early formative years. That's our kind of automatic pilot. We're not necessarily thinking about it. We are just naturally doing it. If I want to stand up and walk across the room, I don't have to think, okay, right, how do I stand up and how do I put one foot in front of the other? I just do it. I learned to do that when I was a baby, and that is something that is now a deep-rooted habit, and I know how to do it. Because of that, lots of things that we have learned and beliefs that we've got that, for instance, in this scenario would be around food, they're so buried deep that we don't even know why we think the way we do. We don't know why we act the way we do. It's just ingrained in us. So when you go to see a hypnotherapist, what they do is they get you into a very deeply relaxed state. So you're not asleep, you're awake. So much as you will hear people say, and sleep. When we use hypnotherapy in the sense you are awake, but you're just very relaxed and you're in a trance-like state. So being in a trance-like state is something we can all do, and we all do all the time. The scenario I always use, which kind of most people can resonate with, is when you've got in the car and you're going somewhere you've been many, many times before, and suddenly you arrive and you think, how on earth did I get here?
Yeah.
And it's quite scary, isn't it? Because you're like, oh, was I actually concentrating on what I was doing at all? You kind of gone into a bit of a trance-like state. Your mind was on, what's for tea? When do I need to pick the kids up? Oh, have I finished that piece of work? Did I send that email? But your subconscious mind took over, knows how to drive the car, knows where you're going, and just gets you there. It's perfectly safe, and it's something that you can pull yourself out of as well. So if ever you felt uncomfortable and you're like, I don't want to do this, you just pull yourself straight out of it.
I read somewhere as well that hypnotherapy is kind of like, that we actually, because we live from our subconscious mind a lot of the time, we're on autopilot a lot. So we kind of go around in a trance-like state. We're like ants and we just go about our day and, all our little problems and
Absolutely,
all our, And what hypnotherapy can do can actually dehypnotize us from that hypnotic state of that automatic. And what I also think is really scary is that your beliefs, a lot of our beliefs are not our own. Like some of them are, but not all of them.
No.
A lot of them are not our own.
Not all of them.
And my background is in education. So I was a teacher. In my teacher training, we did a module on early childhood education and learning that our sense of self and like our subconscious, like we take in all those beliefs up until the age of 7 or 8. Children are like, take it all in. So a lot of how we react to the world or how we show up in the world stems back to when we were under the age of 8.
It does. We were literally like a sponge at that age, and we absorbed so much information, but we were solely reliant on watching others as well and taking on board those habits and beliefs. And, there's probably times for all of us as adults where we've gone, why do I do that? Why do I think that? And when you actually sit down and think about it, you think, because that's always the way it's been. That's always the way I was brought up to believe. It's always the way I saw things done. And then suddenly you realize that you can rescript that, you can rewire your brain and put new beliefs and habits in if you choose to do so.
Yeah, and create that space to actually think, what do I believe? Even if you don't know, what
Absolutely.
would I like to believe? And a real kind of eye-opener for the fact that we take on what our parents' beliefs or our caregivers' beliefs or what, as we're growing up, is when you get to the stage of having kids yourself and you say something and you're like, oh dear God, I sound like my mother. And it happens to
I
us all.
always said I'd never do it, and then you hear it and it's like, oh no.
Like, oh, so like obviously, a certain amount of this subconscious is really important for us to navigate our way in the world, but there obviously comes a point, isn't it, that things are going to become problematic perhaps in our lives, and it's when we reach a barrier that maybe our health is being affected due to emotional eating, which is what we're going to talk about, or anxieties or limit phobias, or it can show up in your life in lots of different ways. And what I think is really important as well, from someone who has experienced quite a lot of cognitive hypnotherapy, you don't have to have massive trauma in your life to have had things that have pushed you off course a bit. Like, I don't have hugely traumatic things in my past, but there's been stuff that we've brought up from my past that I was like, wow, I never knew I thought that about myself. Like, it's just phenomenal, the stuff I have learned about myself from these sessions. I didn't know that was the cause of my anxieties. Didn't know that I felt this way about the world, or I thought this about myself. Something I thought about myself, being able to stem it back to something in primary school that I didn't remember. It's just been so powerful.
Yes. It is amazingly powerful, and certainly, sort of, obviously, when you're training, you you practice and you learn with fellow students. Over the course of that training, you learn an awful lot about yourself. And one of the things we were told right at the beginning was, you'll change, you'll see things differently, you'll understand things differently, and it's been an amazing journey. It really has. But it'd be amazed what comes up, and you go, I never realised. That was why I do that, why I think that.
Let's talk a little bit around emotional eating, because that's obviously what we kind of want to focus most of the conversation around. So I work with a lot of clients and have done over the past few years. It's the one area that I find most difficult to support clients, and I'm learning every day and, qualifying in different areas as much as I can, is around the lack of control when it comes to emotional eating. What I've learned is it doesn't matter how much you know. It doesn't matter how many checklists you have. It doesn't matter how organized you are, how much you plan. All of these things help. For a lot of people, that's enough. Having the habits in place, having the organization in place, having the knowledge, being able to enjoy the process and take it step by step so you're not too overwhelmed. That is enough for most people, but not all people. And for some people, the emotional attachment to food, I have noticed, is so deep. And what breaks my heart is that they feel so powerless about this, that it's like, I have no control over food. I'm a failure. I've just failed another diet. I can't move past this. And that powerlessness is probably the most dehumanizing feeling ever. And like, someone listening might feel like just a little over the top, Kate. It's not really, when this is your everyday life and you're constantly, that feeling of defeat is coming in. It's pretty huge. We need to dig deeper. So which is what you're going to talk to us about.
Yeah, absolutely. On that subject, research has shown that 75% of our eating is emotional eating. On average, for most people, 75% of the food we eat is actually eaten emotionally, which is a lot. And I think it's really important to say to anyone listening to this, if they're recognizing this and thinking, I am an emotional eater. We call it so many different things. We call it emotional eating, binge eating, comfort eating, whatever you want to call it. It's not your fault, and you are most definitely not alone. And you don't have to accept it. I hear so many clients who work with me going, I just guess I've just got to accept that's who I am. Absolutely not. Once you reach that stage where you think, no, I want to change, that's when you can start making those changes. It has a real hold, and they'll keep going on to different diets, and their weight yo-yos all the time. Often it's because it's a bit like a sticking plaster. It's like turning off your smoke alarm when you haven't bothered to put the fire out. what's causing you to eat, what's driving you to eat. That's what you have to get to. That's what we have to acknowledge and work with. Some people know, they're aware of it. They just are struggling to control it. And for other people, yeah, we are digging a little bit deeper, and it can take a little while to uncover actually what it is that drives them to eat the way they do. To understand that there's a difference between physical hunger and emotional hunger. So if you think of physical hunger, it kind of whispers, yeah? So you start thinking, oh, starting to feel a bit peckish. And sort of time goes on, and then you sort of think, actually, no, I am getting quite hungry. I need to get something to eat soon. And then before you know it, your stomach's rumbling and you're feeling maybe a little bit lightheaded. And you're like, actually, do you know what? I'm starving. I need to get something to eat. Emotional eating often is very instant. It can come on very quickly. It's often for something specific. I want chocolate, I want crisps, I want biscuits, whatever it is. So I always sort of say physical hunger whispers and gradually gets louder. Emotional hunger screams at you. It's there straight away. I think for some clients, I find actually realizing that helps them to take a pause, take a breath, and actually think about, what am I really feeling at the moment? Am I truly physically hungry, or am I emotionally hungry? And then depending on which it is, you can then deal with that.
I have a question for you around that, okay? Because that would be exactly how I would coach someone, and I'd be like, create a gap. So you feel that hunger, give yourself time to reflect, go for a walk, go for a shower, put the clothes away from the hot press, whatever. Just create a few minutes. Don't react immediately. Give yourself that space to be like, yeah, like that's a really good point. Physical hunger, is it physical? Is it emotional? What am I feeling in this moment that's making me want to eat? To giving yourself that reflection. So I had this conversation with another cognitive hypnotherapist, and she made the point that when we're in that emotional state, we're like emotionally drunk. We can't think in that objective way in that moment, which I thought was an interesting point.
Yeah, you sort of like those cravings, it's taking hold of you. And again, as I said, it can often come on, the emotional hunger can come on really quickly as well. So it takes us by surprise a little bit. And we're busy, aren't we? Life is busy. We're running around trying to make sure that everything at work is done, the house is done, maybe the kids have got everything that they need. There's always something. So as soon as you get that sensation, emotion, whatever it might be, it's like, I just need to deal with it. I need to move on. And if you think the more stressed we are, the more cortisol we're going to produce. And particularly as midlife women, that cortisol, raising cortisol is a problem for us. That cortisol starts lifting. So we start craving the sugar, the fat, the salty foods, the foods that we associate with emotional overeating.
Yeah.
So if you think back to sort of ancient times, sort of the early man was out and having to hunt and things. When they went into that fight flight state, for whatever reason it might be, their cortisol levels have gone up. Yeah. And that's the body's way of saying, you need energy to do this. You need energy to get out of this situation. Find food now. And that's exactly what the cortisol's doing. But unfortunately, we can then get into a cycle where the more sugar and the more salt and fat we eat, the more cortisol we start producing. So it really is about just taking, as you say, that break. Do something else. If you can, maybe just sit and do some mindful breathing. Go and take a shower or walk. Put the washing away. Just do something to try and distract yourself. And whilst you're doing that, be asking yourself, what am I feeling? How do I actually feel at the moment? And almost do maybe a body scan and sort of just go down your body, sort of thinking, does anywhere feel tight? Does anywhere feel stressed? Are my shoulders tight? Am I holding my jaw tight? Do I have a headache? All those things kind of give you that indication of maybe what you're really feeling.
And it might be the first time that day or that week that you've actually given yourself any attention at all. Like even just to take that time when you feel that way, instead of automatically, oh my God, I have to fix this discomfort, be like, my body is talking to me. I haven't actually given myself any focus today. That is where you can be like, am I physically hungry? When did I actually last eat? Because sometimes as mothers, it can be hours and you could actually just be physically hungry.
Absolutely.
So rather than grabbing for the crisps, you need to make yourself a balanced meal, or it could be emotional hunger. But what I think is really important here is that can be a skill to catch yourself in that moment, can't it? Like, that you're not always going to get it right. Sometimes you're going to give in. Sometimes you're going to have the Doritos or you're going to have the bag of whatever. And I think approaching it with compassion and curiosity and then doing reflecting after the fact
Yes.
as well. Like rather than attaching shame and like, oh, here I go again, being like, okay, curious that happened. What did I do? What didn't I do? And like, this is where journaling is just so important, isn't it?
Oh, I'm a huge fan of journaling. If you come and work with me, I'll get you journaling. And people go, oh, I don't know. So just try, because it's such a great way of just downloading what am I feeling. And it's great to look back on to see patterns and things as well. And interesting what you just said then as well. This work, it's about curiosity, not criticism. So be kind to yourself. You know, I'm not a fan of restricted diets or cutting any foods out, because as soon as you associate a food as a bad food, your body just wants it all the time. So it's saying we can have whatever we want. We just have to manage how much it is and how often, and work out why we're eating it. That's the key to sort of getting a balance. And that's also where hypnotherapy can really help, because you say in the moment, sometimes it's quite difficult to. So as the hypnotherapist, I would be giving positive suggestions and sort of giving those positive suggestions to your subconscious mind that that's not how you want to feel anymore. That's not how you want to think. This is what you want to believe now. This is how you want to be. And you love that person. You like her. And it's that subconscious rewiring.
The empowerment of knowing why you're doing, learning why you're doing it, diving into your timeline, into your past, and being like, I didn't know that stemmed from whatever it is. And like, we think that, oh, we don't have trauma or whatever. There's so many things, that passive comments that can have been said, so many incidences that happen in your life. And maybe there are big things that have happened as well. Like there are a lot of people dealing with a lot of stuff. And, you know, then the stressful lives we live now, on top of that, is going to magnify it and make it worse. Like, you know, just, I suppose for context, like, so in case people don't really understand what I'm talking about. So with my hypnotherapy, it was much more kind of for mindset coaching, moving past limiting beliefs. So it wasn't for weight loss. So like what I discovered is like my default was fear. So like in my early 20s, I suffered a lot with panic attacks and chronic anxiety. I overcame that with CBT and a certain amount of time on medication at the time, and managed to kind of through CBT put like really good structure in my life. I'll be 39 this weekend, but at the coming closer to 40, I still find when I'm really stressed, my default is fear. I catastrophize. And I never understood where that actually came from. When I started doing hypnotherapy and we went into my past, and I discovered that as a very young child, I got the information that, oh, the world is not safe. The world is not safe. You need to be afraid. A lot of it would have come from my dad's anxiety trying to protect me. No, that he would have been like, you need to be careful of this, you need to be careful of that. And there's nothing that he did wrong. This was just his experience of the world and the stuff he had been through. And it's funny because my sister doesn't have the same like reaction to the world, which is really interesting. But it's what I took in as a little girl. And it made me really a really cautious child, really afraid. And all it was just different things that he would say to keep me safe. But it's the way that I took it up. I learned that about myself from doing these sessions. And my point in sharing that really is that someone listening, if you can actually get to the bottom of why you act the way you do or why you feel that way about yourself, everything can change. Because sometimes I'll still default to fear. Someone listening, you might always default to food, but you'll catch yourself. And I don't judge myself. And I'm like, interesting, because a big opening for me was like, I didn't realize that other people don't experience the world as being a dangerous place. I thought everyone was like, oh yeah, we should be super careful of everything. I thought that's what everyone thought. So it's amazing when you start learning that about yourself and approach it with curiosity, what you'll uncover and how much power you get back.
It can, and thank you, because it's really vulnerable sometimes sharing these stories. I find so often when clients come in and we really get down into what the problem is, they're sharing vulnerable times in their life, and sometimes it can be quite a shock to them. And as you say, your father wanted to protect you. So in some ways, it is a form of trauma that you're carrying. The world is not safe. That trauma wasn't delivered to you in a negative way. It was love. He wanted to protect you. So I think when we think about trauma, we always think it has to be something really horrendous and bad, but it's not necessarily. It can be really quite minor. But if you held on to that belief and you use it as your go-to, your default is fear, then that's what you're going to do. And if your default is food, it's not to say that you won't, in moments of stress, maybe sometimes go back to that. But hopefully you would then have the skills to stop yourself in your tracks. So I wouldn't say, you're never going to eat a bag of Doritos again. For me, sort of like my default would be give me a bag of minstrels. I'm not going to say I'm never going to eat them again because I like them too much. But if I did it all the time, it would be an issue. And learning to just slow down and actually taste your food. We eat so quickly. If you go to sort of more Mediterranean countries, we know that sort of lunch can take hours and they take their time over food. We don't. We eat on the run, we eat quickly. You know, if we're lucky, we've had a 20-minute lunch break, we shovel the food down and off we go. And we wonder why we're constantly running on stress and those high emotions. And inherently, then we're just grabbing the wrong food at the time anyway. So yeah, it's slow down, taste your food, actually acknowledge, how does this feel? And then by doing that, what often happens is you learn then to recognize when you're hungry, when you're full, when you've had enough, before you get to that stage where you're overfull, you're feeling sick, bloated, and then you wake up the next day full of regret. Yeah. I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to be good today. And then by the time you get to the evening, off we go again, straight back on that same cycle.
I think a huge problem for a lot of us, it's a whole society issue of just being too busy, isn't it? Like we're overloaded, we're overworked, we've got too much going on, and quite often like don't even have time to eat or prepare a meal, or it really needs to be like enough is enough. I am slowing down and I am prioritizing me by putting good food into my body. I just wanted to interrupt the podcast for a moment to talk to you a little bit about Kate Hamilton Health online coaching. So we have 2 coaching options available. We have our elite coaching and we have our group coaching service. Our elite coaching service is bespoke, individualized coaching, which will help you to finally break free from diet culture with one-to-one anytime support from your coach and with access to a safe, supportive community. This is a higher ticket coaching option and the coaching is by application only. If you go to my website, katehamiltonhealth.com, you will be able to apply for elite coaching through there and we will be in touch to organise a call and to get you up and running. In relation to our group coaching starts on the first Monday of every month. When it's full each month, we do close the doors. With the group coaching is about building the habits, body and energy of the healthiest version of yourself and finally make it stick. We include personalized calories and portions, food lists, recipes, meal plan ideas, step goals, home or gym-based workouts, depending on what you want, changed every 8 weeks, mindset work, app access. So that's the Kate Hamilton Health app, which will be your hub for everything. Weekly yoga classes, WhatsApp group community, weekly group Q&A with myself, fun challenges, daily habits form, weekly self check-in, fortnightly check-ins with your coach, a library full of lifestyle guides, a library full of lessons, seminars, and all of this is updated regularly. We have weekly group Zoom calls with myself and the team, regular guest seminars where we get experts on to talk more to you about different topics that we need experts on for. And then we have in-person events twice a year that you will get at a major discount as being a member of the Kate Hamilton Health community. As I said, this starts the first Monday of every month. If you go to my website, katehamiltonhealth.com, you will see when the next group coaching intake is starting for you. So we close the doors as soon as that intake is full or the Monday before the group coaching starts. So usually that last Monday of the previous month. So if you head over to katehamiltonhealth.com, all of that information that I've talked through is on the website. You'll be able to book your spot for the next intake there. And I will chat to you all then.
Yeah, we're getting better, but we still don't prioritise ourselves. And being busy constantly all the time isn't a badge of honour. Yeah, because eventually your body and your mind go, whoa, enough. I can't do this anymore. So, that old cliche of self-care is not selfish. It's essential that we look after ourselves. We look after ourselves now to be fit and healthy when we get older. We work out now, don't we? We do our strength training now so that when we're older, we're more mobile and we can do things. And by addressing the stress, the overwhelm that we feel now, which is for those of us in that perimenopause or menopausal stage of our life, is being aggravated by hormones. Our hormones are up and down all over the place. It's like living with a toddler inside you that's constantly having a tantrum sometimes. And you sort of said that about not eating enough and not having time to eat. And a lot of people who binge in the evening, it's often due to the fact that they didn't actually eat enough during the day and they didn't eat the right food. They're not focusing on protein and fiber, etc.
And speaking of perimenopause, I think, that busy lifestyle that we lead in our 20s and our 30s, and, we get away with a lot. We get away with a lot in our 20s. We get away with a little bit less in our 30s. I'm getting closer to 40. I'm getting away with even less. And I work with a lot of women in their 40s and 50s. And, the one thing I hear so often is what used to work doesn't work anymore. And I do think it's just like suddenly you hit perimenopause and everything that's imbalanced in your life just gets magnified.
Yeah. And you're tired than you used to be, with your hormones are all over the place and you're exhausted most of the time. Your sleep may be being disrupted. And again, if you're not sleeping well, that's going to have an impact. So hypnotherapy can help with sleep routines and things as well. So although people then come, for me, with that midlife overeating, emotional eating, often what we end up working on might be something very different. So once we've uncovered what's causing it, we're then working on helping them to sleep more, helping them to manage their stress, maybe to work on messages and beliefs and things from the past or traumas from the past. And as a society as well, we've been brought up to use food as a way of celebrating or using it to manage our emotions. Yeah. So if it's your birthday, we have cake. If we're celebrating something, if we're celebrating something or it's a holiday, it's Christmas, it's Easter, what do? We have special food that we eat. And it's usually really tasty, lovely food that then at the end of it, we go, oh, I really overindulged over that weekend or over Christmas. Yeah. If we're feeling lonely and bored, what do? We reach out and we give ourselves a treat. We have a cake, biscuits, chocolate. So we kind of grow up in a society where we're just taught to use food as a way of dealing with how we feel at the time, as opposed to what it is, which is actually getting the nutrients we need into our body so that we can function and manage our emotions in healthy ways.
I firmly believe that the way forward for lasting change is very much about viewing food as nourishment, viewing it as fuel, and adding in rather than taking away. I think adding in is the first step. Are you getting enough lean protein? Are you actually getting enough fiber in your diet? Are you eating enough fruit and vegetables? Are you actually having any healthy fats? Because that's super important, especially in perimenopause. It's important all the time, but it's especially in perimenopause. Are you actually getting enough fats? Because quite often we go low fat diets. Are you eating 3 meals a day? Are you eating enough in those 3 meals? With cravings and a lot of evening time eating, snacking, it does come down to not being nourished properly throughout the day. So we can actually take control of a lot by just adding in what we need, thinking about what your body needs. And actually, for some people listening, that might be the first time they really thought about what actually does my body need. There's so much noise out there and there's so much nonsense out there and all these different types of diets. It is the fundamentals. It is like, how did our grandparents eat? Like, it is eating good quality, mostly whole foods, and a little bit of what you enjoy as well. Bit of chocolate, bit of cake, whatever.
We've got to have that, haven't we? Yeah. I mean,
it's all about
there's no way I'm giving up any of those.
Absolutely. And I think when we start to view food differently, it helps then to detach the value we put around it to soothe our emotions, I think.
Absolutely, it does. And the thing is, we know that, foods like chocolate and things, they do give us that dopamine hit. They do soothe, they do make us feel better. There's no doubt about it. And that's why, I say it's not banning it, it's learning to eat it in the right way and understanding why you eat it. I can sort of say, for instance, as if I was working with somebody who wanted to stop smoking, I would always use an aversion technique. So I would make the idea of smoking so absolutely horrendously disgusting that as soon as they pick a cigarette up, they feel terrible. And I had one lady who just said, I get it, I'm going to sort of cut down on these things. But she said, I just need to stop eating crisps. I don't want to eat crisps anymore. So we actually did some work like that. And, sort of the way I talked about crisps and described the crisps brought up those sensations and those feelings that, if she went near a packet of crisps now, she'd be like, oh God, no, can't do that. They'd actually taste vile when she put them in her mouth. So you can go that far if you really want to cut one food out. But on the whole, normally you're looking at, let's keep those foods in our diet because we like them, but let's work on the underlying cause. And that's why my programs are I always work with a blend of hypnotherapy and sort of, coaching, discussion. We do breath work, journaling, all sorts of things like that, just so that you've got an overall grounding. And often then people find what suits them, what works for them, what feels comfortable.
And then you don't need to be the person who has to cut something out because you've no control over it. You have that understanding of yourself, that balance over time. Because like nobody enjoys the person at the party that's like, do you know how much sugar's in that? Do you know that's processed? That it's like, come on, we're at a party.
God, yeah.
You need to go to the party and enjoy the party. And I think it's really important to note that we are what we do most of the time. What we do every now and again at a party is totally fine. It's your everyday habits. It's your week in, week out habits that are going to be the makings of you. But that's also your week in, week out thoughts about yourself, thoughts about the world, thoughts about like what's going on in your mind.
Sometimes as well, I think sort of like there's a lot going on in the world at the moment. Some people, even just the stress of that is causing a problem for them. They feel as if every time they turn the television on, the news on, something, it raises their stress. How do they deal with it? They eat. So it's not always even personal traumas. It could be just other things going on around you. And it's what you do all the time. We just had a bank holiday weekend, Did I have probably more gym than I should have done? Absolutely. And some chocolate and other foods and takeaway. But you know what? We had a fabulous family bank holiday weekend and we all had great fun. Do we do it every day? No. So it's fine. And I think, again, then it's learning to that curiosity, not criticism. The next day or when you've eaten it, it's done. Move on. Don't drag it out. Just move on. Accept it. Think about it. How did it make me feel? So that next time you're tempted to do it, journal on it. And then when you come back next time and you feel that binge regret cycle starting again, you can then go, hang on, I remember now. I can look back. I can read it. I can remember how horrendous I felt. So having that chocolate gives you a quick fix. Momentarily, it makes you feel great. But very quickly, if you continue, you feel horrendous. Was it worth it? No, probably not. Yeah.
And like you're not going to get any more from the 10th biscuit that you didn't get from the first or second.
And when we're binging as well, when we're in that cycle, the hormones that tell us that we're full don't tend to sort of kick in as much. Whereas when we're eating because we're hungry in a normal meal, because again, during perimenopause and that midlife stage, our hunger hormones are all over the place as well. We are naturally more hungry. So the hormones that make us feel hungry are on the increase. But when we're in that binging cycle, the hormones that say, actually, you're full, that we're not hearing them, we're not seeing them. So it's tuning in again. It's rewiring your subconscious mind to start listening to your body, start hearing the cues. And know that when you're driven to emotional eating, it's your body's way of trying to tell you something that you need to listen to, you need to deal with.
Yeah, and that it's not a weakness, it's a message.
What is it telling you? Be kind to yourself.
Let's talk a little bit around perimenopause. And because, you've mentioned cortisol, you've mentioned hunger hormones. We all know that once we start hitting perimenopause, our hormones are up and down, our mood is affected, our sleep is affected, our hunger is affected, our, cravings. Quite often, a lot of women can be genuinely quite depressed and anxious, to be honest. And there's a place for going to your GP and discussing what the best options are for you. But in general, if we're talking lifestyle, what, in your opinion, are the fundamentals that are going to make the most difference generally to us? To what's important, first of all, I suppose, in relation to these hormone imbalances? What do we need to be looking at? What's important to try and fix, if you like, and how do we do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that firstly, the thing to remember is that we are all individual. So what works for one person might not work for another. But in general, it's eating a balanced diet, getting some exercise and movement in every day, making sure you've got enough sleep. There's lots of other things, and it depends. There's lots of supplements and things you can take for different symptoms. There's HRT, and there's definitely a place to go to see your GP or the nurse specialist at your GP practice who deals with HRT and things. Absolutely go and do that. But certainly for me, I actually sort of became a coach with an online health and wellness platform, which involved exercise, but also mindset work and nutritional work as well. So, you looked at the whole thing. And as soon as I started addressing all of that in my life, I realized how much better I felt. Yeah. So from the age of about 30, which you'll know as women, our musculoskeletal system, we start losing muscle and things. And it's really important for us to be strength training. And that doesn't mean we have to be lifting massive weights and bodybuilding, but we need to be incorporating some form of strength training into our week, into our workout routines. We need to make sure that we are actually moving our bodies and getting some fresh air. And maybe it's just walking. I've, sort of been really into my fitness, and I've also gone through phases where I've not done as much because for medical reasons, because of the surgeries I've had on my back, I've had to rein it in a little bit. Keep walking, keep moving, and prioritize your sleep. Don't burn the candle at both ends. So working on those to me makes a massive difference. And it's certainly 3 areas that I always incorporate with my plans with people, so that it's kind of a whole holistic look at life.
Exactly what I would say and what I would advise clients at as well. And I think sometimes people are a little bit disappointed. It's like, what? You're talking about the fundamentals. Is there not a menopause specific diet? And I'm like, no, it's just the fundamentals, and we just get away with less. We just get away with, we don't get away with as much.
We do, I mean, I grew up, I could eat precisely what I wanted and I never put any weight on. Those days have gone. It doesn't work that way anymore. I have to be much more focused.
Most people don't think about their health as much in their 20s. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as, for some people they do, but in generally that, it's like, you're busy socializing and you're, climbing the ladder and you're, figuring out who you are, all of that. But I think as you come towards your late 30s, mid to late 30s and into your 40s, you really do start to think about your health. What I would say to anyone listening is it's those simple habits. It's so bringing it back to basics, creating the space in your week. And I hate the word making time, because we can't make more time, but we have to create space. Like, our lives do depend on it. We need to create the space in our week. For it doesn't have to be massive. Like you said, you don't have to be a bodybuilder in the gym 8 hours a week or anything like that. You just need some way, a good program. It can be done from home and it need only take 30 minutes. And if you got it done twice a week, you would be winning. And walking every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then just adding.
It's a great thing about having a dog, because you have to go out for a walk.
That's so funny that you say that. That's so funny that you say that, because I literally say to everyone, I'm like, your dog needs to be walked every day. So do you. So I'm literally comparing us to dogs. We think about our dogs, but we don't think about ourselves.
No. And you think about your dog. If they haven't been out for a walk, they're a pain in the neck, aren't they? They're cooped up and they need to get out. And we're the same. And sometimes that effort in doing these things is really hard. But once you're out, you're enjoying it and you're fine. It's just finding that strength. And it's not about willpower. It's more than willpower. It's actually addressing what's going on and dealing with it and taking action. Just take messy action. Do something. Even if you're in a job where you sit down all day, every so often get up and just wander around the office or the house, or I don't know, do a little dance when no one's looking. Who cares, but just move. And that, again, just helps move, take some deep breaths, slow everything down, maybe even a couple of minutes meditation every so often, just to sort of refocus, get that energy back up again. Oh, and also water. Drink your water.
Yeah, hydration.
And if you don't like it, put some lemon in it, put something in it. But hydration as well is key.
But I think you made a really good point about the just move, like with the walking, like what quite often, what I will hear would be, but Kate, I'm really busy, or I'm tired, I'm so exhausted from the day, I'm this, that, I have a headache, I don't feel great, or, and these are genuine symptoms that we feel. If you can give yourself one rule that you take from this, anyone listening, that you are just going to move your body every day, regardless of your excuses, because that's what they are excuses. And we need to, there are times when it's like, but I'm listening to my body. It's like, no, you're listening to your mind. There's very, very few situations where you are not able for a walk. Like that, an injury might be one, an injury, if you are medically injured, or if you are actually sick, that you can't go to work, you are sick, don't be pushing your walks when you need to rest. And apart from that, even if we're physically tired, just go for a stroll. And what I use with my clients is a 5-minute
doesn't have to be long, just something.
5-minute action.
Yeah.
Commit to 5 minutes. Get out the door and be like, I will walk for 5 minutes. I can stop guilt-free after 5 minutes. If I want, I'll have done more than 5 minutes. We rarely stop after 5 minutes because that motivation does come after action.
You've got
and
going.
feel amazing. Yeah. So I think like if we took one thing and we just said, I'm going to take action and I am going out my door for a 5-minute walk every single day, watch how your life will change.
It's amazing. And it's those little tiny habits. You don't have to make these massive changes. We've all got 24 hours in our day. And I hate the saying we all have the same 24 hours because we don't.
Yeah.
We all have very different 24 hours. Some of us are working full time, some of us are parents, some are carers, so we have a different 24 hours. But if we can just find a little bit of time, and if you are busy and you haven't got time, take a really close look at the day and think, what really is important? What if I didn't do that in that half an hour? Would still be here tomorrow and nothing would have changed really. So I could let it go. I could prioritize me. And again, sometimes if this is something people struggle with, then we incorporate it into the hypnotherapy. So it comes up in the coaching and the skills and the mindset side of things. And then we'll drop it into the hypnotherapy so that we're also giving that subconscious reprogramming as well. We're talking to the subconscious all the time and saying all these new things that you want to do to help embed those new habits.
Yeah, and those new beliefs, like the belief. And it's about identity, isn't it? It's about creating your identity. Be someone who walks every day. Be someone who fuels their body. That's not about being perfect. It's about just being someone who thinks about themselves a little bit every day.
Yeah, it's changing the internal response rather than just your external behavior. Yeah. So the external behavior is we want to stop the eating, we want to get out and do some exercise, but we have to change the internal response as well for it to work long time.
We have to want to do it. That's the thing. It has to be something positive that we are doing for us rather than something that we have to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Alison, thank you so much for this most amazing conversation. So helpful. If any people want to reach out to you and find out a bit more about what you do, where is the best place for them to find you?
So best place probably is Instagram. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but if you go onto Instagram, I am at Mind-Align Therapy.
Yeah, perfect.
And you can message me there, or there's a link tree in my bio, which has got links to my calendars and my free I've got a free overeating survival kit there that you can download as well. And just to say, if anyone is interested, I do offer a free 30-minute online chat. So if somebody's thinking, I don't know, or I need a bit more, hop on, let's have a chat for 30 minutes and see whether it's something you want to continue with, or whether in that 30 minutes you've got what you need. It's absolutely
That's amazing.
fine.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. It's been so lovely chatting. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And I would just ask for one thing from you. If at all possible, could you make sure that you subscribe to the podcast? It really does make such a difference. If there's a particular episode that you've enjoyed, please do share it in your WhatsApp groups, share it on your stories, tag myself and the guest in your stories. All of these things really do help to grow the podcast. And obviously, if there's anything you'd like to reflect on, please do leave a comment. It would mean the world to me, and I will see you on the next one.